Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight, as always, was fucking terrible. This show was abysmal tonight. Absolutely dreadful. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Monday Night Raw is the worst pro wrestling show on cable television. It is. I mean, what do we see on the show tonight? We had a rematch from last week. The Viking Raiders versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. We saw Matt Riddle versus Randy Orton. Lana and Naomi versus Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler. Elias versus Kofi Kingston. We had a 2-on-1 handicap match where Drew McIntyre ended up facing Mace and T-Bar. And we also had, in the main event, Asuka versus Charlotte Flair for the 1,000th time. So, that was Monday Night Raw tonight. But before I start the review, if you guys haven't seen the previous videos that I did a movie review of Mortal Kombat, which went up on Sunday. As you guys have probably seen this, it's Tuesday morning or Tuesday already. So uploaded the movie review of the original Mortal Kombat on Sunday, and then the Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie review rant, which I uploaded yesterday. So check out those two reviews. I did those reviews in anticipation for the new Mortal Kombat film, which is coming out on Friday. So I'm really looking forward to checking out the new film, the new Mortal Kombat film. So heard pretty decent things about it. So we'll give it a watch. I'll go to the theater and see it. So you gotta have a little orange juice. So, but moving on to the Raw review of this awful, dreadful piece of shit show. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre ended up making his way out, and we saw how McIntyre earned a title shot against Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania Backlash for the WWE Championship, where McIntyre ended up defeating both Braun Strowman and Randy Orton last week in the main event. So then we saw he was attacked by T-Bar and Mace after the match. So after we saw that, McIntyre was on the mic, and he ended up talking about opportunities and how Strowman and Orton wanted a shot at the WWE Championship. McIntyre ended up saying that he earned his next shot at the WWE Championship by beating two of the top superstars, Braun Strowman and Randy Orton. So he ended up talking about Mace and T-Bar. McIntyre went on and said that Mace and T-Bar decided to make their name on him last week. So McIntyre went on to say that he knows MVP was behind all this. Was behind Mace and T-Bar attacking McIntyre last week. So McIntyre ended up taunting them, and he ended up joking, saying that he will get a little retribution when he gets his hands on them. So McIntyre ended up saying that he feels like, fighting. So then out came MVP. So McIntyre was like, "Oh, you're the man I want to see." So MVP ended up mentioning how Bobby Lashley ended up putting McIntyre to sleep at WrestleMania when he wasn't expecting it. And he ended up saying that he wasn't expecting T-Bar and Mace last week. MVP went on to say that maybe McIntyre should start expecting the unexpected. MVP then congratulated McIntyre on the win last week because Bobby Lashley believes that he will be a worthy advisory when he beats McIntyre at WrestleMania Backlash again and puts him back in the Hurt Lock and puts him to sleep again. So McIntyre then ended up asking MVP if he's really going to stand here and act like he had nothing to do with the attack last week by Mace and T-Bar. So MVP ended up going on. He ended up saying about how he works for Bobby Lashley and how Bobby Lashley downsized the Hurt Business, by getting rid of Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. So MVP was like, why would he hire T-Bar and Mace to attack McIntyre? So McIntyre ended up pointing to how Bobby Lashley had the whole locker room gunning for him before WrestleMania. And we all know that. Well, we all saw that. So MVP ended up declaring that Mace and T-Bar have zero affiliation with the Hurt Business. Zero. So MVP was wondering if McIntyre made some enemies with his speech in the locker room. So McIntyre ended up slowly getting out of the ring. He then approached MVP, but T-Bar and Mace end up attacking McIntyre at ringside. T-Bar and Mace end up bringing McIntyre into the ring. And they took out McIntyre in the middle of the ring, where they delivered the high justice. T-Bar and Mace then got out of the ring, walked right past MVP. MVP had a smirk on his face as McIntyre was recovering in the ring. And that was that. Overall, this segment was just okay, in my opinion. So, it was okay. But then we had Kevin Patrick stopped T-Bar and Mace backstage. T-Bar and Mace told Kevin Patrick that they are confident about finishing off McIntyre later on in the night. So that was that. So then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Drew McIntyre ended up stopping Adam Pearce backstage. And McIntyre ended up telling Adam Pearce to make the match happen between him, T-Bar, and Mace. So Adam Pearce ended up telling McIntyre that he needs a tag team partner. So McIntyre then insisted to Adam Pearce that he'll be fine on his own. He doesn't need a tag team partner. And that was that. So we had a 2-on-1 handicap match. McIntyre versus T-Bar and Mace later on in the night. I mean, what is with these 2-on-1 handicap matches that we've been getting recently? It's like WWE is back in their lazy mode, as always, booking 2-on-1 handicap matches every single week on Monday Night Raw. Are we going to get another 2-on-1 handicap match next week? Most definitely we will. Same shit. Same stipulation, same shit. And then we got this same shit that we saw last week. The Viking Raiders versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. If you saw the match last week, you saw nothing new in this match. The Viking Raiders ended up winning, where we had Ivar end up coming in. They end up delivering the Viking experience. So that was that. And then you had Adnan Virk calling the Viking experience the Viking Express. It's not the Viking Express. It's the Viking experience as their finisher. Or if you want to call what they call the finisher in NXT, Thor's Hammer. There you go. Viking Raiders ended up winning. Nothing new that we saw in this match that we didn't see last week. It's just copy and paste rinse and repeat. So we saw Kevin Patrick backstage with Randy Orton, and Kevin Patrick ended up telling Orton if the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, is no more after last week. Orton ended up telling Kevin Patrick to mark his words, and that the Fiend will never be seen or heard from in WWE as long as he is around, as long as Orton is around. So Orton went on, he ended up saying about how Drew McIntyre ended up getting lucky last week to become the number one contender to face Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania Backlash. Orton ended up saying that the WWE Champion after WrestleMania Backlash will have a target on his back as he comes for what he truly cares about, and that is the WWE Championship. So then we see Matt Riddle end up riding up on a scooter. He was congratulating Orton on his win at WrestleMania. Riddle ended up suggesting to Orton that they form a tag team called RK Bro with matching scooters. So Orton ended up just walking off, and that was that. So then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Randy Orton. He was talking with Adam Pearce, and he was like, oh, I don't know this guy's name. You know, he's referring to Matt Riddle. So Orton ended up telling Adam Pearce that he wants to face Matt Riddle later on tonight. So Pearce ended up saying to Orton that he will see what he can do to make it happen. So that was that. And then we had Charlotte Flair. And I could already tell that people who watch the Monday Night Raw tonight picked up their remotes, changed the channel, or put their TV on mute as soon as Charlotte came out. As soon as Charlotte's music ended up hitting, they probably changed their channels or muted their TVs. Charlotte came out. She was in the ring. Charlotte ended up saying that she came back to Raw last week simply demanding respect from the women's locker room and the WWE Universe. She ended up saying that she didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. She was just expressing how she felt. Charlotte went on about WrestleMania and how the women in the back are so lame and fake to each other. She wanted to say that she doesn't even know why they're mad at her and that they didn't have a match taken from them like Charlotte did. You know, WrestleMania did not need Charlotte. So Charlotte ended up saying that they work all year for a WrestleMania match, and hers was taken from her. So she ended up saying that Rhea Ripley ended up beating Asuka, but Charlotte ended up saying that she can beat them each, or both, in the same night. So Charlotte ended up saying that that's why they call her the Opportunity. Really? Really? Called the Opportunity. Give me a break. Charlotte ended up saying that she's going to give Asuka the opportunity and show Ripley why she's the face of the division. Charlotte ended up saying that she respects Asuka, but doesn't like her, and that she will remind Asuka how much she dislikes her later tonight and prove why she is the queen. So Asuka came out. Asuka ended up coming into the ring, and then Rhea Ripley made her way out. Charlotte ended up asking if they're going to gang up on her. She ended up saying that she wants Rhea Ripley to have a seat at ringside to take notes on how great she is. Rhea ended up saying that she's actually going to take Charlotte up on that offer. So she ended up saying, but knowing Asuka, she pretty much knows Charlotte is going to get beat. So Charlotte ended up talking down to Asuka. Charlotte wouldn't even let Asuka speak. So Asuka ended up yelling asked Charlotte to shut up. And she ended up saying that tonight she will beat her. She will beat Charlotte, bitch. So that was that. Charlotte was shocked at that. Asuka ended up exiting the ring. Rhea Ripley was watching from the stage. She was smiling. She liked what Asuka had to say by calling Charlotte a bitch. So that was that. But it's the same old segment from Charlotte like we saw last week. Awful. God-awful segment. So then we saw Randy Orton backstage. Matt Riddle ended up flying past him on a scooter. So that was that. And then we had Matt Riddle versus Randy Orton. This was a decent match here. This wasn't a bad match. Matt Riddle ended up coming out first, and he ended up getting into the ring, kicked his flip-flops off, and I don't understand why we got to have, when he kicks off his flip-flops, we got to have CGI birds flying. Why do we need that? They did that at WrestleMania, and I'm like, oh, I hope that's the last time they do it. Nope, they did it again here. I don't understand. I don't understand why we need to have CGI birds after Matt Riddle kicks off his flip-flops. Fucking dumb. So then out came Randy Orton next. Orton then slowly walked to the ring. Him and Riddle had a stare down. They were taunting each other. Orton then entered the ring. Match started. Riddle and Orton end up blocking up. Riddle end up taking Orton to the ropes. They end up blocking up again. Orton end up taking Riddle down with a headlock. Both of them get back up. They go back into the ropes. Orton was delivering some body shots to Matt Riddle. Riddle then countered a suplex. He ended up jumping on Orton's back for the sleeper. Orton ended up going to the ropes to break it. But Matt Riddle ended up bringing him back to the middle of the ring. Orton then ended up slamming Matt Riddle to break up the sleeper. Riddle ended up immediately going for another sleeper on Orton's back, but Orton ended up ramming Riddle back into the turnbuckles to break it. Riddle ended up leaping right back onto Orton's back for a bro mission. Orton was starting to fade. Orton then ended up finally slamming Matt Riddle back onto the mat. So later on we had Orton end up working Matt Riddle over on the floor at ringside. He was slamming Riddle on top of the announce table. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back, we saw Orton was stomping on Matt Riddle's limbs in the middle of the ring. Orton stomped away to keep Riddle down. Orton used the middle rope to choke Matt Riddle. And the referee was counting at Orton. So Orton ended up delivering a uppercut. And Matt Riddle ended up pulling himself up with Orton's leg. Orton then nailed a vertical suplex. At the end of the match, Matt Riddle ended up winning the match where Randy Orton was going for the RKO. Matt Riddle ended up blocking it. He ended up pinning Orton with a crucifix to get the win. So there you go. Matt Riddle ended up winning the match. Overall, good match. It was decent. It was very, very enjoyable match. So this match was the only decent thing to happen on Monday Night Raw tonight. That, and I'll get to what happened with T-Bar and Mace, which is another thing that I thought was decent tonight. But I'll get to that when I get to talking about them. Then we had Adam Pearce backstage with Sheamus. Pearce ended up giving props to Sheamus for his win over Matt Riddle at WrestleMania. Adam Pearce ended up saying that everyone has no doubt that Sheamus will be a great champion. But he wants Sheamus to think about some of the great champions to hold the United States Championship. He ended up mentioning how Cena wants to defend the title each week in open challenge. And that was when Cena brought a little prestige to the United States Championship, where every single week Cena was going out there defending the United States Championship each and every week with an open challenge. That brought prestige and focus to the United States Championship. But Sheamus ended up saying that he's not John Cena, and he doesn't care about the past. But he will hold an open challenge without the United States Championship being on the line. So Pearce ended up thanking Sheamus, and he walked off. So that was that. But, put the title on the line. Bring prestige to the United States Championship. Go out there, every week. Sheamus should go out there every week like Cena did back in the day and defend the United States Championship in open challenge every single week. So that's what WWE should do. Recapture that's something with Sheamus like John Cena did back in the day. So bring, some prestige and focus to the title. Then we had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Lana and Naomi. Garbage match. Terrible match. The only thing that I have to say about this match was Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke coming out. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke were on the stage, and they were showing us the video from last week where Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, they were laughing at Mandy Rose's slip at WrestleMania, where Mandy Rose ended up slipping on the stage. And then we saw Mandy Rose end up slapping Nia Jax last week after Shayna Baszler ended up walking off. They played that clip. And so Dana Brooke ended up taunting Nia Jax and showed a replay of how she and Mandy Rose took Nia Jax down backstage last week after Mandy Rose ended up slapping the hell out of Nia Jax. Then they show us another clip from last week where we saw Nia Jax end up slipping on the apron. But because of that, Nia Jax was pissed. Shayna Baszler then ended up reaching for a tag. Nia Jax ended up dropping off of the apron, started marching up the stage. So Shayna was like to Nia, "Where are you going?" So Naomi then tagged in, and her and Lana double teamed on Shayna Baszler. They ended up hitting the double face buster to Shayna Baszler. Naomi went for the cover, and there you go. Naomi and Lana end up winning the match. Overall, god-awful match. And I feel so bad for Shayna Baszler. I really do. She looks so frustrated on how they're using her. If I was her, I would be fucking frustrated. Like I said, if I was Shayna Baszler, I would be fucking frustrated by how WWE has been, treating her. Feel so bad for Shayna Baszler. She deserves better. Now we saw Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. They were given a interview. Bad Bunny was talking Spanish, but we had subtitles, English subtitles being played out. Damian Priest was speaking in Spanish, and we had English subtitles with what they were saying. And in my mind, when all this was happening, in my mind, I just heard this. What? Yeah, that was going through my mind watching this little interview with Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. I heard the What chance? So, I'm not kidding. So then we had Miz TV. Miz TV, Miz and Maurice were there as how we saw last week. Like I said, rinse and repeat of last week's Monday Night Raw. This is just, Miz and Maurice there just to boost their ratings for Miz and Mrs. They end up celebrating the successful season premiere of Miz and Mrs. last week. We saw champagne and ice in the middle of the ring. Miz end up introducing Maurice. They talk about how good their so-called WrestleMania match was. Miz and John Morrison versus Damian Priest and Bad Bunny. And they end up commenting on the success of Miz and Mrs. The season premiere was last week. Maurice ended up thanking everyone for watching. Maurice ended up going on about how awesome of a husband and father Miz is. And she ended up saying that she truly believes that Miz is the greatest WWE superstar. Oh, man. So, they go on, they kiss. We had pyro going off, and I'm like, really? Really? Do we really need this? So Miz ended up saying that last week was great, and this week will be even better, because tonight they celebrate the next Miz and Mrs. episode. And then the Miz ended up plugging his WWE 24 documentary, which premieres Sunday. So Miz ended up raising a toast, and then out came Damian Priest. Damian Priest marched to the ring, and he ended up saying that he speaks for everyone when he says Miz is as delusional as Jake Paul, thinking he's a real fighter. Priest ended up saying that Miz forgot to show everyone how he earned his win last week. Priest ended up showing us how Miz and Morrison defeated him in the 2-on-1 handicap match last week, with a distraction from Maurice. Yeah, that was the only reason how Miz and Morrison won last week, was because Miz has feet on the ropes, which Maurice ended up holding his feet down. So that's why Miz and Morrison ended up winning last week. So Damian Priest ended up asking what type of man brags about a win like that. So Priest ended up speaking in Spanish. Miz was like, "What did you just say?" Priest ended up saying that Miz got his pants ripped off on national TV last week, and everyone saw he has no balls. So Priest ended up saying that he can translate with his fists, if that's not good. So Maurice then ended up speaking little in French, and she ended up saying that if Damian Priest wants a match against The Miz, he can have it. So Priest ended up going to leave. He ended up congratulating Miz first. He then took a sip of the champagne. So Priest ended up tasting the champagne. He was like, "This tastes like trash." Maurice then ended up tossing a glass of champagne in Damian Priest's face. And her and Miz ended up heading up the ramp. And that was that. Awful segment. Just rinse and repeat from last week, minus John Morrison. So then we saw the New Day was walking backstage. Matt Riddle ended up riding up on a scooter. And New Day ended up giving Matt Riddle props for his win over Randy Orton. So they were doing some of their comedy. Riddle ended up riding off on a scooter. And that was that. So we went from Miz TV, awful segment, to fucking Elias in the ring. Bland Elias. So Elias was under the spotlight in the ring with his guitar. He starts playing and introduces Jackson Riker. They get interrupted by the New Day. I think Xavier Woods was playing the bass. And he was playing his own intro to the New Day's theme. And Elias wasn't happy about that. So the match ended up starting. The match was fucking terrible. We had Elias end up landing a running knee to Kofi's face for a 2 count. Elias then ended up nailing the drift away. Kofi ended up kicking out at 2. Kofi ended up doing a little references to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Xavier Woods was playing a tune that sounded like Stone Cold's theme, which was pretty cool. I like that Kofi was wearing the Nike Air Jordans in the yellow and black, which I have the same pair that Kofi wore tonight. Show them here. Yeah, these were the same Jordans that Kofi was wearing tonight. So I had the same pair that he was wearing in the match against Elias tonight. So they're pretty awesome shoes. Wore them like twice already. But anyways, Elias ended up winning the match. Elias ended up nailing a flying elbow drop to Kofi. There you go. Elias ended up winning the match. Who fucking cares? Who cares? And then we had Alexa Bliss with Alexa's Playground. Alexa Bliss was with her new friend, that doll Lily, is what we saw last week. So Alexa Bliss was sitting on a swing. Lily was sitting on the swing next to Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss ended up saying that Lily didn't just come into her life around WrestleMania, and that they've been best friends for a very long time. So we saw photos of Alexa Bliss when she was, a kid, and it had Lily added to the pics. Alexa Bliss ended up recalling how a little girl was mean to her on the playground and wouldn't let her have a bite of her ice cream cone. Alexa Bliss ended up saying that she pushed that little bitch off the swing. She fell and broke her arm, and that Alexa Bliss, got to eat all her ice cream. Alexa Bliss ended up saying that when the teachers asked her why she pushed the mean little girl, she told the truth. And she blamed it all on Lily, the doll, and that she made her do it. So Alexa Bliss ended up saying that the teachers thought she was bonkers. But if Lily doesn't like somebody, she has no problem letting you know. So Alexa Bliss was telling all the little girls of the locker room that there is something they should know. Lily didn't like him. Of course, meaning the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And that she doesn't like any of you. So Alexa Bliss starts laughing. She starts swinging on her swing. She then looks over at Lily. We got a close-up of Lily, the creepy doll. So Lily was just laughing and snaps at the camera. And that was how the segment ended. Well, Alexa Bliss, the only entertaining thing of Monday Night Raw. I want to know where they're going to take Alexa Bliss and this whole thing with Lily the doll. So I wonder where this is headed with Alexa Bliss. So after Alexa Bliss is away from Bray Wyatt. So we'll see where this goes. So then we saw, I think Sarah Schreiber. She ended up stopping Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke backstage, asking if it was appropriate behavior that we saw earlier. Mandy Rose ended up saying that they are not bullies, and that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are the bullies. Mandy Rose then admitted that she slipped at WrestleMania, but Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler just kept watching that clip over and over. So Nia Jax then came in. She ended up yelling, "Hey." So Shayna Baszler was right behind Nia Jax, and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke quickly walked away. So Shayna Baszler ended up saying that Nia Jax better start paying attention, or else. Shayna Baszler then ended up storming off. And then Angel Garza ended up suddenly appearing next to Nia Jax. So Angel Garza ended up asking Nia Jax what she sees in Reginald. So Garza ended up walking off, and Nia Jax was thinking about it, but Reginald hasn't even been on TV in 2 weeks. That makes it good. Keep Reginald off of TV. Offers nothing to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Keep him off TV. So then we had the 2-on-1 handicap match, T-Bar and Mace versus Drew McIntyre. This was just very meh, in my opinion. Match ended in a disqualification because Drew McIntyre was beating Mace down in the corner. So the referee ended up calling for the match. And then out came Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman came out to make the save. T-Bar and Mace then end up retreating out to the floor as Strowman ended up hitting the ring. So let me get this straight. Drew McIntyre faced Braun Strowman and Randy Orton in the main event of Monday Night Raw last week. So why is Braun Strowman coming out this week and making the save for Drew McIntyre? Doesn't make any fucking sense. These two were just in a match last week in the main event. And now this week, Braun Strowman is saving McIntyre? Huh? Doesn't make any fucking sense. So we went from a 2-on-1 handicap match with Mace, T-Bar, and Drew McIntyre to a tag team match. Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre versus Mace and T-Bar. Match was terrible. And the match ended in a disqualification because we had Drew McIntyre ended up ripping Mace's mask off. He ended up staring there with it. Mace ended up smacking McIntyre in the face. McIntyre then ended up smacking Mace in the face with his mask. He then beat Mace into the corner with the mask. So McIntyre snapped, so the referee ended up calling for the bell. So 2 matches tonight. McIntyre got disqualified in. Post-match, T-Bar ended up coming from behind, and McIntyre ended up dropping T-Bar. Strowman ended up running in, started fighting T-Bar away from McIntyre. Strowman then ended up ripping T-Bar's mask off, knocks him out of the ring with the mask. So we had Mace and T-Bar out of the ring. They were standing tall. And we had McIntyre and Strowman ended up tossing their masks, out of the ring. T-Bar and Mace's masks out of the ring. So hopefully this is it for T-Bar and Mace wearing those masks to get rid of everything that once was Retribution. That whole failure of a faction. So now can we get Mace and T-Bar as their regular names that they were called by? Mace, D.O. Madden, and T-Bar, Dominic Dijakovic. Can we get their original names back now? Yeah, let's get their original names back. Since Mia Yim and Shane Thorne, it was released, news was released today that they're going to SmackDown. So when they go to SmackDown, they're possibly getting their names back, hopefully. So now let's get, Dominic Dijakovic and D.O. Madden, their names back. And forget everything that once was that horrible Retribution faction. Let's keep it that way. Just get back their original names. Instead of the stupid fucking names that they were being called by. Mace, T-Bar, Slapjack, Reckoning. Please. Just get their original names back. Then we had Damian Priest versus The Miz. Terrible match. God awful. We had Maurice getting involved in the match, where The Miz ended up going to capitalize for the win with his feet on the ropes, which Maurice tried to hold down, but Priest ended up kicking out of that. So Damian Priest got the win, ended up hitting hit the lights on The Miz. So there you go. Damian Priest ended up winning the match. Overall, terrible match. Then we had Sheamus, the United States Champion, in the ring. Sheamus was on the mic, and he ended up mentioning how he won over Matt Riddle at WrestleMania and became the United States Champion. He ended up saying that the world need to know something, that he's going to be our United States Champion for a long, long time. Sheamus wanted to say that he didn't win the United States Championship by being a nice fella or making reckless decisions, and that he did it the opposite way. Sheamus then ended up telling everyone that he will be their fighting champion, which means he's going to issue an open challenge for the United States Championship each and every week, or whenever he wants. So Sheamus ended up calling somebody out to come face him, and out came Humberto Carrillo. Humberto Carrillo ended up coming into the ring, and Sheamus then ended up attacking him from behind, started beating him down. Sheamus then ended up tossing Humberto out of the ring, out to the floor. Sheamus then took off his coat, and he was leveling Humberto at ringside with a clothesline. Sheamus then grabbed Carrillo, started talking some trash to him, ran Carrillo into the barricade, kept on doing that. Sheamus then unloaded with big forearm strikes to Carrillo at ringside. Sheamus then ended up scooping Carrillo and rammed his back into the ring post. So Sheamus ended up falling back into the ring. Sheamus then waited in the corner as Carrillo ended up slowly getting himself back up. Carrillo then turned around and Sheamus ended up delivering a bro kick to Carrillo. Sheamus then kneeled down in Carrillo's face, started yelling about being in a different league. He was taunting Carrillo with the United States Championship. So Sheamus then put his hat back on, started posing with the title, and that was that. So no official match was made. It was just a beatdown from Sheamus to Humberto Carrillo. So that was that. And then we had the main event. Asuka versus Charlotte. For the 1,000th time. So we saw Charlotte end up coming out first. So then out came Asuka, then Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley then walked towards the announce table, and the match got underway where Charlotte and Asuka ended up locking up. Charlotte was looking to mount some offense first on Asuka, but they ended up running the ropes. Rhea Ripley was carrying a chair to the bottom of the ramp to watch the match. Asuka ended up kicking Charlotte in mid-move to take over the match. So then Asuka was unloaded with kicks on Charlotte. Asuka ended up missing a hip attack. Charlotte then followed that up with a kick on the apron. Charlotte ended up trying to go for a neck breaker on the apron, but Asuka ended up fighting back. And Charlotte ended up dropping Asuka on the apron with the neck breaker. And at the end of the match, Asuka ended up winning where we had Charlotte locking in the figure 4 on Asuka. She had then bridged it into the figure 8. Rhea Ripley got involved, started interfering in the figure 8. So Charlotte ended up trying to pull Rhea Ripley through the ropes. The referee was struggling with Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Asuka ended up taking advantage. She ended up dropping Charlotte with a kick and then the backslide for the win. And there you go. Asuka ended up winning the match. Post-match, Rhea Ripley was shown taunting Charlotte from ringside. Charlotte went to argue with the referee. Charlotte then backed the referee into the corner and grabbed him, launched the referee across the ring. Charlotte was stomping away on the referee. He was keeping him down. So she was mounting the referee from behind, started continuing the beatdown. Another referee ended up coming in and told Charlotte to get off. So other officials were coming out. They were ordering Charlotte to go to the back. And she ended up attacking the same referee. Again, started beating him down. Charlotte then ended up going to leave the ring. And she ended up stopping. She came back in through the ropes. So the officials ended up warning her, but she ended up delivering a punt kick to the ribs of the referee. And that was that. That was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. And because of that, news ended up leaking out here. Click on this news here where WWE has announced suspension and a fine for Charlotte for doing that. So WWE has announced a storyline fine of $100,000 and an indefinite suspension for Charlotte following what happened after Monday Night Raw went off the air. So there's that. WWE just announced that Adam Pearce ordered the $100,000 fine and suspended Charlotte indefinitely. So Charlotte ended up returning last week, only for this week to beat up on the referee and get suspended and a $100,000 fine. So there you go. She's off TV again. Thank God. Thank God. So it says there is no word on when the storyline suspension will be lifted. Charlotte versus Asuka versus Rhea Ripley has been rumored for the WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view on May 16, but it remains to be seen if that match will happen. Oh, it will definitely happen. Who knows? It's definitely going to happen. So, but that was Monday Night Raw tonight. God-awful show. Monday Night Raw, one of the worst pro wrestling shows on cable television. So, every week the show is fucking terrible. WWE puts no effort into Monday Night Raw or, hell, even sometimes SmackDown anymore. They're just lazy. The creative is garbage. I mean, what more else can you say? Monday Night Raw is absolutely fucking terrible. The show is in shambles. So, anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, which will be the AEW Dynamite review coming up on Wednesday. So until then, see you all on Wednesday for Dynamite.